Hello, everyone. For
Hello.
those of you who joined earlier, welcome back. I'm Lauren Van Hamer from Belline to Broadway, and I am here with a great panel to talk about um, children and COVID and reentry and camp and all the things. So, as always, if you have any questions or comments, post them in the chat. I'm going to go around and have you introduce yourselves as I'm seeing you on screen. And so, I will start with you and I'm going to go counterclockwise.
Okay. Hi, my name is Will Barrios. I'm the owner of a toy company called Totro Toys. We build hand-built magnetic toys for kids 3 to 12. My background's actually in theater, so I'm very close to this conversation, and I get to mesh well with the kids, which I now work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a great experience, and I can't wait to hear more from the other participants and what you guys have to say in chat.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for being here. And Will and I are in the Broadway Makers Alliance together. So I'm really happy to have you here. Matthew, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what camp program you're working with this summer so we kind of know.
Sure. Hi, my name's Matthew Hager, and I am an actor and children's musical writer. I own an aggregate theater company living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I am currently working with Justice Theater Project on our summer camp this year, which is my third year doing Justice Theater Projects camp, including a virtual year last year, which was really fun as well, even though different. And this year we actually just started this week. We do the camp in Raleigh for 3 weeks, and we do it for 2 weeks in Durham. So we just started our first week in Durham with the Emily K Center.
Love it. Thank you. And Pete?
Hi, I'm Pete Compertor. I'm a theater arts teacher at Green Hope High School now, which is still super weird to say because I was at Sanderson High School for so many a year. So I'm at Green Hope High School now, and I am currently working on North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater and their advanced teen cast camp, which I've been doing every summer since 2007. And we do an entire musical in 2 weeks. And this year we are doing a devised musical called Perspectives, which is all basically all of our actors / campers basically have been telling their story of their lives since the pandemic started up until now. I've been mixing in some catchy musical theater tunes.
So a devised piece in 2 weeks and a musical to boot. So
casual.
It sounds really fun and crazy. So I was doing some digging because I really wanted to find some statistics. I have 2 children of my own. They're older. So I know just a snapshot of what is happening in my own house. But there was a study done last fall, and it was in Italy and Spain, and it was asking parents, it was trying to assess the immediate psychological effects of COVID-19 and quarantine in youth. And 85.7% of the parents surveyed said that they reported changes in their children's emotions and behaviors during quarantine. And what I'm curious about is now that everything's kind of reopening here in Raleigh and in other parts of the United States, as we go into this in-person learning, whether it's in-person camps, in-person school, which some of our kids here in year-round school have started, what changes in behavior, what are you observing, Pete and Matthew, in the in-person camp environment?
I mean, for me, for so like I said, I'm working with mostly teens. 12 to 19 is our age range for our camp. And for me, it's been kind of this recalibration of normal that especially for a lot of kids who are used to being performers, that that there's this expectation of you know in the theater, the show must go on. We must continue to push and sacrifice to be able um, to put up a production. So and taking that and now taking this time off and recalibrating it to, well, um, you know, we have to slow down a little bit, because, and we have to take other things into consideration. It can't just be like, oh, hey, I'm not feeling well today, but I'm still going to go in to rehearsal because that's what we do. The show has to go on. That we have to be just more conscious around each other, and be looking out for each other's health and well-being, because um, we've all been out of the game so long. It sort of feels like, and we can't go at the same pace that we were going. We were working through the show the other day or yesterday, which felt like 4 days ago. So we were working through the show yesterday, and we just had to stop at some point and be like, we need to stop, because I've forgotten how intense this is on my own creative brain, and I can see it more than ever in your guys' faces and bodies, that it's just wearing you out faster, because we've all been out of practice for so long.
Thank you for sharing that. Matthew, what are you seeing at JTP?
Yeah, well, that recalibration, I think, is a great word for it. Especially the first day of camp this year, I noticed a lot of not as outgoing behavior as I would have expected in some students that may have been so in the past. And even surprised me to be like, it had been 2 years since I'd seen some of these kids. And so just wondering, maybe is it just time passing that the personality is shifting, or they have different preferences and how they interact with other people, or is it a result of COVID and isolation? And it seemed as the weeks went on that it was much more of a isolation thing. What I was so impressed by, though, was how quickly it's readjusted. First day, some of them came in with books and just sat in the chairs until camp started and didn't want to talk to anybody else. And then, by day 3, there weren't any books anymore, So yeah, there's behaviors that coping mechanisms that developed through the past year and a half. And I think as we create, and I think one of the important things that we do as camp directors is try to create an environment in which the kids feel safe to step out into a different social environment than they had been experiencing, and hopefully feel safe to do so.
Thank you for sharing that. Some of the in the parent survey that I just mentioned, some of the frequent behaviors that they were observing in their children at home were difficulty concentrating, boredom, irritability, restlessness, nervousness, loneliness, uneasiness, and worries. Is that consistent with what you're seeing as some of the kids are beginning to express themselves or feel more comfortable expressing themselves? Because you're with them a lot of hours.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I don't remember phones being as much of a distraction as they have been this year for our students. Like we'd catch them sneaking away to to get on their phones more often, and and so that's also could just be a sign of the times as well. But I think there was a real, attachment to devices, and also that control you have when you're on a device. And if you choose to disengage at this moment, then you can choose to disengage, and that's not as easy of an option in a theater camp. It requires you to communicate first that this is the time I need to step away. And so what we try to do when we see those behaviors of recognizing that some campers going through something, either through irritability or lack of focus, however it manifests, we do try to meet them where they are and see what's going on. We've had a couple of essentially counseling sessions with campers, and sometimes two campers together to figure out what's going on between them, and trying to address the person behind the behavior first, and then even addressing that before we really ultimately care about the production. I mean, we're here together because we want to do theater and we love doing theater. I do camp and I am in theater and believe a big part of theater's role in the world is to create better human beings. And so I think that has been a strong guiding force in how we structure our camp, and then how we have it. The people that we have that staff the camp are all very emotionally intuitive and academically intellectual people with children's education. So that all serves us very well. People who know a lot more than me are on the staff, fortunately.
Oh, I don't know. I think you know a lot by experience, Matthew. Pete, what are you seeing? Are you seeing some of those behaviors, the difficulty concentrating, boredom, irritability? You were teaching,
yes.
and we should say in your case,
Yeah.
you were teaching high school when school shut down. So you moved to teaching theater in high school virtually, and now you're teaching camp in person.
Yes. So it's been a wild ride, and trying to figure out all of this. And so I would say, so the journey of all of this has been, wanting. There's been such a want and desire to come back, and what's unique about our show, because we decided to have the students tell their own stories, through this musical. So I asked them a bunch of questions beforehand about, we took through their journey from, what was their relationship to theater before the pandemic, and then what they've been doing in quarantine, and now taking it to now. So I got a chance to hear from them about what their feelings have been going through quarantine before camp even started. And so hearing from them all those common threads you talked about, the idea of this, not just boredom, but the fact that like they didn't want to be bored, and feeling that boredom turn into frustration, because we come from a world and a society where we value being active, right? And we kind of have this unknown feeling of like, I've stopped, therefore I am not a valuable member of society. Right. And I think especially in something like the arts, that was completely stopped almost, that there was this feeling of stuck and not knowing how to express themselves, because so many of them have gotten used to expressing themselves through theater, and then it was just gone. And so I think that there was a lot of like, I have these things to deal with and nowhere to send them. And so I think that I saw that frustration in sort of our interviews beforehand. And I think now that we've gotten to camp and I've gotten them in person, I think a lot of it is, knowing how far, or knowing, are they able to be pushed, like wanting to get more and more out of them, and where is that limited? Is it too much too soon, or can I push you to be better, or are you not ready for that yet? So it's a delicate trial and error balance, of, part of the point of this camp is we want to teach you how to be, um, how to put together a show in a professional timeline on a professional setting. But how much are we ready to be pushed for that full force coming back from, you know, the weirdest 18 months that any of us have gone through?
Yes. And I would guess it changes on a day-to-day basis. I know there are
Oh, more.
days when I am ready to tackle reentry and go back into the world and I'm good. And there are days where I just don't want to leave my house. That I'm just not ready. So now, are the kids at camp? I'm curious. There's no judgment either way. Are they masked or are they unmasked, or has that changed throughout the week as the CDC guidelines have changed?
We've been masked the entire time, mask or face shield. We're in the middle of figuring out like how we want them to actually perform the show, either with face shields or possibly making an individual determination on them. So we basically came into like you can either go through camp every day, mask or face shield, whatever you're more comfortable with. Most of them have gone masks. We do have a couple. Now that we're getting to running the show, more kids are opting for face shield so I can see their facial expressions. And then for the actual show, we're trying to figure out that balance between face shields and not face shields, to put together an actual show, which has been an adventure of trying to negotiate that.
And it's a musical, so that adds a whole different aspect of interesting stuff
Yep.
to the mask debate. How about
Yes.
at JTP, Matthew? Is
Yeah,
masks, no masks?
yeah, we're all completely masked, and so that's required us to be inventive, and then especially for music, since singing is so much more potentially dangerous than speaking. So we have music class outside, and for the songs that our kids sing, we built in time for me to record them individually, and then I layer in the recordings of their voices so that when the parents come and hear their performances, they're watching the kids dance to their own. They're essentially lip syncing to their own music, except you can't see their lips. So, and then for the masks, since they're in shows with masks, we have to found a purpose for all of them. So their masks reflect their character. So our first week, we did Animal Week. So stories involving animals. So so they had animals, animal noses, mouths, however they designed their animal for their mask. And then we did World Stories the second week that we had camp. And so they had, each mask was a different flag from around the country. So from around the world. So we were able to not only incorporate that theme into the show in a way that worked really well, but also to, again, expose kids to other cultures and symbolism from around the world. And then for the last week that we were in Raleigh, we had a really powerful week of more social justice theater and devised theater as well. And so our kids went through a workshop that we do every year that they devise things called Ideas We Care About. So we talk about things that they care about and causes they care about. And then they designed their own masks that reflected the causes that were most important to them. And so they literally wore their causes on their faces as they performed.
I'm so curious now. What were the causes? What's important to what were the causes and issues that are important to them
Sure.
post COVID?
Yeah. Well, we did this last year as well, and it's similar issues. Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, gender equality. Those were themes that repeated, and then things like family was one person chose family. One person chose teachers, which made our staff very happy as well. And one was animals, as well. So it was across the spectrum, and we try to use where they're at and incorporate their themes into the show that we create, and the level of empowerment, buy-in, and just recognizing their own voice that happens from that, I think goes a long way towards, again, what I believe a large purpose of theater is. And with I think what he was saying, where they haven't been able to express things um, uh, for the past year and a half in ways they may have been used to, or didn't know. Some of them didn't know this was a way to express themselves. And so, but they have been thinking for the past year and a half, and they have been trying to figure things out. And so we're saying all that stuff, all that internal work you've been doing, this is what the next step is, to take internal stuff and put it outside yourself. And we did that the third week, so we'd already built up a good dynamic of trust with everybody, to be able to get more vulnerable with each other. And it was a week I'll never forget. It was just incredibly powerful, the pieces they created.
Mm. Well, and I always think I feel that children. I always say this. I think children are going to lead us out of some of the problems we have in the world because of the way they play, the way they interact, the way they imagine. So I love that you both are giving them space to do that. I I Melissa, who is with Justice Theater Project, she just posted a comment. She's saying the parents are commenting that they're using their child's reaction camp as part of their decision about choosing in person versus virtual schooling, and that the parents are as anxious as the kids at the on day one. Um, and that by day 3, the students and parents are generally doing better, doing really well. Are you finding, let's talk about the parents. How anxious are the parents? Because parents are an interesting group, being one myself. How are the parents doing, Pete? How are you as a parent doing? Pete has
I
two
mean,
small children.
I do. I got their little ones. They are restarting school, both of them. My youngest is starting kindergarten this week, and my oldest is going into fourth grade. So it has been a real balancing act, and really, it's just a matter of you being comfortable and everyone and having that respect that everybody's situation is different. So not assuming that your situation and how you feel applies to everybody. So I think if you're um, giving everybody, giving the parents good information, giving the parents like especially options, so we came into this, we talked about the mass thing with the show, like here what we're thinking, what are you comfortable with, given your home situation, your family situation, and what you guys are all doing in your home. How comfortable are you with this and this? I think we really haven't had any. Um, I think the parents of the students in our camp have been pretty willing to work with us, and have been pretty good at communicating. Here's our our expectations and our needs, and for the most part we haven't had any adventures in that area.
Matthew, how about you? Are you seeing parent anxiety, kid anxiety beginning of the week, and is that tapering off as the week goes on?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it again varies from family to family. We've had some parents that seem genuinely surprised at how well their kid did in camp, almost like they were expecting to pull them out because they couldn't handle it. Handle it isn't the right. It wasn't the environment they were wanting or expecting at the time, and. I think it's been important to stay open communication and really offering those assurances for safety, especially of these are the steps we're taking. And I think, yeah, it must be difficult. I don't deal with the parents as directly as Amelia, who is our camp administrator, does a lot of the communication with them. So she would have a lot more responses on how the parents are doing directly with her. But it seems to me like it would be difficult to let go of your child, into after having, being able to have them control of their environment for so long. And so, we're very grateful for the amount of trust that's put in us. And we try to honor that trust by again, keeping the open lines of communication and constantly trying to gauge where the kids are at so that we can notice when behavior seems different, or if someone's not, Amelia and Liz and Shelby, who are my other co-instructors, are really good. They're all public school educators. And so they're really good at spotting when is a kid not, not in the group, or who tends to be on the outside of the social group. And so then we, go in and encourage, hey, what if you went over and talked to them? Or why are you not? What's going on? Or we'll talk to the other kids in the group. So we are trying to be very proactive with making sure everyone's comfortable. And I think we are, we talk to parents along the way when we're noticing behavior that's showing up, to see, is this normal? Is this a new thing? And how should we address this?
And Tim, Mama Tim is how we all know him, who is over at Interact. He's managing director at Interact. Tim Locklear has said he's had positive reactions from the parents with the policies that Interact has in place. And I think to both your points, to your point, Pete, that communication is key. I think the more information people have, the knowledge is power. So I love that both these camps are communicating with the parents. Will, I want to bring you into this conversation. I think theater is such a collaborative. I love to say theater is a collaborative sport, and I love how it's collaborative. I wonder, from the socialization standpoint, and maybe I'll let Pete and Matthew speak to the socialization, and then we'll talk about how play can help with this re-entry in socialization. Because if your kids have been home and all they've had is the screen interaction with their friends, or maybe brothers and sisters or siblings, they're not having that typical social interaction that we normally see. So, Pete and Matt, let me ask you first, have you seen some socialization or re-entry socialization issues that the kids have experienced upon being with a big group of kids again?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's just been a lot of remembering, of what, um, of what, what it was all about. You know what I mean? And remembering how things were, especially because everyone has taken the time to be socially aware on a lot of issues, especially, I think teenagers now are way more socially aware than I remember being as a teenager. Maybe that was just me. Maybe I was just terrible at it. But and I think that there's a lot of things that they, have spent all this time thinking about and wanting to put into practice, and now that they're here and doing it, it's they're trying to find that balance of what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. So they're trying to look out for each other, and they're trying to look out for trying to remember what is helpful and what is not helpful. I think just remembering, especially in our camp where they're with each other the whole time from 9 to 5, how to maintain those conflict resolutions the way they could, the way that they could before. Like, it's definitely taking some remembering and practicing how to create this conflict resolutions, because they have not been around people, not their family, for that chunk of time before.
And a whole lot of patience on the directors and the instructors' part, I'm imagining. Matthew, what have you seen now? So here's what's interesting. Pete, you are with middle school and high schoolers. Matthew, you are with second grade to middle schoolers, so you've got some little ones. What are you seeing on the socialization part of this?
Yeah. So something I feel like I've noted broad spectrum noticed is just how little things mean a lot more. I feel like all of our campers, especially early on, are trying to read each other. And so where do how do I fit in? What are people doing? How can they not dislike me? What can I do to get along and fit in? And so whether the feedback is positive or negative as far as they're concerned, it means even more. So now we're best friends ever, and no one else is going to be your friend, or it's everyone here hates me. What's wrong with me? Kind of thing. So there is it's very quick to go to the extremes of the spectrum, and I think that is because of that recalibration that needs to happen, and just everyone being so sensitive of wanting to fit in, which is a normal thing for all of us. But I do feel like it's more volatile than maybe I've observed in past years, as far as emotionally volatile within the kid, and the conclusions they get to are happening more quickly. And so because of that, we're really trying to jump in as soon as we can, to keep those conclusions that are negative from happening, and solidifying.
Absolutely. And so, Will, I am a big believer that play, um, you and I had a conversation about this the other day, is so important. My daughter has, I don't know if I told you this, but my daughter has high functioning autism. And when she was first diagnosed, they would give us these social stories for her and I to basically role play various social situations. For my daughter, social stories didn't work. She was learning how to socialize from television shows and from play. So, Will, for parents who, we have viewers from truly all over the world who watch this platform. And so being mindful that different places in the country are at different points of reopening. Talk about how play, especially touch play, because when I talk about play, guys, I'm not talking about being on your screen and playing video games. I'm talking about like the old fashioned play, go outside and play, take a stick, pretend it's a sword kind of play. um, that kind of play, interactive play. How does what role does play have in helping work out some of these reentry socialization issues that we're talking about?
I mean, to start off, it's everything. I mean, every interaction is an interaction. I first want to say that both Pete and Matthew have given great examples of reentry and what they're seeing, and the way that it's kind of I've seen it work on our end is that there's a lot of fidgeting, a lot of anxiety still for the kids. They don't really know where to turn. They don't know when things are going to change, whether they're going to get better or worse. When just real quick, when we did a survey at the end of the year, we had a big event and we asked kids to tell us what they wanted from Santa, what they wanted the most, and we had them do a little wish list. And we took that as a survey and developed that into what kids want. Out of 2020, what do kids want? And they want time. That was the number one thing that they wrote down. And so I think one of the biggest things going into talking about play and reentry is that they really do want the time with their friends, with their parents. And I think, like Matthew was saying, that things are a little bit heightened more. If it's positive or negative, it's heightened either way. Um, that's kind of what they're experiencing. Is that they want more time to be able to talk through things or to have conversations with people, things like that. And when we talk about touch play, not on the screens, when it comes to that touch play, you're getting a lot of benefits when you incorporate that time. So right now, it's best to bring in the parent, bring in the sibling, bring in anybody you can. I know it's hard to do some play dates still now, or people are still on the fence about that. But all of that with that physical touch can really make a difference in kind of the step by step to reentry, to be able to re-socialize once the kids are in school or they're going to camp. That can make a big difference.
And a lot of times if they're acting out stories at home through you have magnetic toys through the magnets, through creating figures with the modeling clay, what playing with dolls. These are all ways that they can kind of express themselves without expressing themselves directly
Yeah.
to the parents, which yeah.
So yeah, so we kind of talked about this as well. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, please jump.
Go for it. So sorry, what was your last statement on that? I apologize. I just got
Well,
sidetracked.
whether it's dolls, whether it's clay, the kids really, this is a great way for them to communicate and express themselves without actually telling you how they're feeling, without you saying, "How are
Yeah.
you feeling today?" And they go, "I'm good, mom. Leave me alone."
Absolutely. So yeah, so what you had mentioned actually were stories. And so that's one thing I want to talk about. Now, I have a background in theater, but I own a toy company. So where am I on this call here? Where do I fit in? Well, what's interesting is that we all tell stories. We do. With toys, we're actually telling them, like you said, in an indirect way. And it's very easy to grab. Like, for example, we sell magnetic dough. And so it's dough that is magnetic. And you have your little magnetic pieces, and you can put it on the dough however you want. You can build a house, you could build a castle, you can build whatever you want, and put those magnets all over it. But through that, you're telling stories. And what I love about play and theater so much is that through those mediums, you are learning and growing and developing, and without thinking of it, you are indirectly telling stories, or you're incorporating things into that story that maybe are challenges for you or concerns for you that can really play out over time.
Love that. So I'm gonna ask all of you, and I'm gonna kind of go around. Pete, I'm gonna start with you. Have there been any, and Will, I'm gonna end with you because you actually have an example for the class to do here. So we're all gonna be
Yeah,
students
it's an exercise.
and do some play. But Pete, let me start with you. Have there been any exercises that you've done with the kids that maybe parents watching at home who haven't had the benefit of sending their child to theater camp, that they might be able to do with their kids at home to get them to open up, to prepare them for returning to in person classes, and to really cope with a lot of the confusion and news events that we're seeing on television right now, because every day it seems like something's changing.
Yeah, I mean, so our so speaking from the camp we're currently in, like we don't really have that many, games, activities. We're super focused on, putting up a production. So that's been kind of the focus of that camp. But I think in general for us, or something that I did in my classroom a lot was, we would start each day, and how I did attendance each day is I would just come up with a ridiculous, like, would you rather question, and just be able, and getting them comfortable talking with each other and talking with me in especially in that separated environment, really helped when we started to come back together, and when we started, um, when I needed to be able to, have a conversation with them. They were just, or they needed to have a conversation with each other, breaking the ice in a non-threatening way like that. And not just once, like, hey, it's the first day. Let me ask you, would you rather do this or that? Hey, that was fun for a first day, but we did it every day. Like, that's how we took attendance every day, and getting them, the opportunity of, like, hey, I get to say something ridiculous and have some fun and share a laugh to start the class really helped with the environments, whether we were in person or whether we were virtual, of just allowing, opening up the lines of communication between each other and between them and myself, um, which is really interesting. Like not every time you have a conversation with with a kid needs to be like a super like let me see how you're feeling, and because that a lot of times they we need to ease into that. How do you ease into that? It's just allowing them to giving them their space to be themselves for even for a couple seconds, and doing that a little bit each day allows them to sort of open up and feel safe in an environment.
Mm. Matthew, any exercises or games that you played with the kids during camp this summer that have been helpful that might be able to practice at home?
Yeah, I wonder how. So something that the kids really seem to latch onto and enjoy in our first week. So this is without much, laying the groundwork for them. When we did Animal Week, we did a lot of Aesop's fables, and just some of them we just gave them boring old text of this paragraph is the story of the ant and the grasshopper. And then I taught them through story theater techniques, how do you break that down into dialogue, and then encourage them to, hey, I'd love for you to add your own stuff here, your own line. So giving them the opportunity to put their voice into the character, not just, for those who've done theater forever, they've still probably mostly done theater where they were told, this is your line, this is the line you say, and don't say anything other than that. We have copyright things we have to deal with, right? And we're creating this, so like you can say whatever you want. But more than given the opportunity for that, as I think the role as instructor, and then in your scenario, the parent, is to validate whatever little nugget. The thing is, I'm finding with a lot of our young artists is they don't realize how small something big starts off as. I think I said that right. Like just a little nugget, then grows and grows and grows into this final product. And so often, especially in a very digital world, you just see the final product. And so kids are used to saying, this is polished, this is polished. How can I ever do that? How could I ever create that? And and so I try to validate these, like, hey, what if I tried this over here? I was like, yeah, let's try it. And in my head, I might know that's not going to work, but I'm going to give them the chance to try it first, and then we can talk about whether or not it worked. Or most of the time, what happens is they come up with something so much better than I ever could have come up with, because what they're coming up with is completely their voice, and it's what they want to say. And so it comes with that sense of play and fun, because they come up with some hilarious things that are so relevant. And so I think maybe finding that sense of validation within a structure for creative expression. So if that's a story, and then telling a story and asking your kid to retell the story, if it's in your wheelhouse to then play it out, I think that could be a lot of fun. But along the way, encouraging more and more expression by just those little flashes of themselves that they kind of show it to see if it's okay to show themselves what happens while I get hurt. And then what we try to do is like, oh, thank you so much for showing yourself, because that's exactly what we're looking for. And this is exactly the place to do it. And so, yeah, and kind of another approach that I think helped our kids feel safe and trusting with us is we didn't ask them to do things we weren't willing to do ourselves, as far as being vulnerable and open about asking them for what they cared about. We share what we care about, not in a way of you need to also care about this, or how can you carry my message, but really trying to respect them as human beings, and by trusting them with what's inside us, and modeling what it looks like to share things that that you're not even certain about. It's not about the finished product. It's not about where you end with your thoughts, but being willing along the way in a trusting environment to share that and to co-create. And that's really where that sense of play, I think, comes, and it keeps things from feeling so overwhelming.
And what I love about this conversation, and one of the I think silver linings for a lot of artists is that, I think as artists, as creatives, pre-COVID, we're always on that. We've always got our eye on that finished product. And I think what COVID forced so many people to do is stop and pause and really focus on the creative process. So I think we went back to savoring the process versus cranking out the finished product. And I think I hope that's something that kind of sticks post COVID. So, Will, um, you're going to actually lead us through an exercise, I think.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I'm going to ask you questions, but what do
Yes.
people need for this exercise that we're about to do?
Okay. So this is a really simple exercise. It only takes a few minutes. It is, by the way, perfect to do at the start of an evening, the start of an exercise, even for teachers. If you want to do this once a week, once a day in class, just when the kids get in, it's a great little exercise because it'll give you some insight that you may not get from just asking the "How are you doing?" question. So you're just going to need a piece of paper, and Matthew and Pete, you can play along if you'd like.
Need paper now.
So we're gonna do.
Okay, hold on. Well, and Will and I are gonna.
I didn't know we needed
We're
props.
gonna buy time for a second. So if you all want to get a piece of paper and a pen or a writing utensil, right? Is that what we're needing for
A
this?
writing utensil, yes. That's all you need. It can be anything.
BRB.
Pencil, crayon, pen, whatever you want.
Okay. So while we're waiting for Pete to come back and everybody to get their papers and pens, or pencils or whatever you're going to write with, I am going to tell you where to find these amazing camps, where to find these amazing programs. I'm going to start with, and I'm flashing the banner at the bottom, Interact, North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater, their Divide show, their musical perspectives, runs this weekend. Tickets are available now. You can go to interact.org and find out about ticket information. But I think it's going to be really insightful to see what the kids have come up with. I'm excited about that. Now, Matthew, are your kids doing a final show as well? I know they are for the parents, but is it open to the public?
Yeah, so it's not open to the public. However, not in person at least. However, we are filming everything, and then we have filmed and I believe have already posted our Raleigh camps on our JTP YouTube channel. And if you have time to check them out, I think it would be really exciting to see, especially the third week, which is the one I talked about that has more social justice issues, where you see a lot of the kids' personalities come through. Especially they did a piece on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it's not often that you hear that a piece is based on policy, but and is very entertaining and profound. But this is it was a really special piece that they created, and that's up on our YouTube channel.
And what I love about both these programs is I think what makes theater for young audiences, children's theater work, and these programs work is you're really giving the children and the young people agency. You're giving them a voice and you're listening to them and validating what they're feeling in their creative process. So I love that. So be sure to visit justicetheaterproject.org, interact.org, and now that everybody has their papers and pen, I should have told you guys this at the beginning, but now that you have your paper and pen, all right, Will, what are we doing?
Okay, so we're gonna grab our piece of paper and we're gonna draw 3 lines on the far right side of your piece of paper. And you can just draw them kind of in the third part of that piece of paper. So 3 lines. Okay. So now we're gonna label them. So we're gonna label them. The top one's gonna be location. The middle one is going to be names. And then the bottom one is going to be challenge. So this is roughly what it looks like, hopefully in better handwriting than I have.
So will the top one, say what the top one is again, because you broke up for a second.
Location. Yeah, location is top.
Location.
Name or names, and then challenge at the bottom. Okay. So now we're going to use this space over here, and we're going to draw two characters. They can look like anything. They can be stick figures. They can be whatever your mind comes up with, but just two simple characters. Okay. Mine are definitely going to be stick figure. Okay. So just two characters. And there's no arts challenge. There's no competition here on best art. Not this side. Okay, everybody got their characters. So now, real quick, we're going to name the characters. So go ahead and give your characters a name. You don't have to think about it too long, whatever comes to mind. I'm going to call mine Albert and Winnie, because those are the two names that just came to me. Albert and Winnie. Okay, we got our names.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to choose a location. What's the location? It can be anything. You don't have to tell me, just write it down. Okay. We got the location. So real quick, Matthew, what's your location?
Topsail Beach.
Topsail Beach. Okay, I actually wrote down beach too.
Nice.
Good thinking. Pete, did you write down beach?
No, I did not. I wrote down a volcano.
Volcano. Okay, cool. Awesome. So now we're going to take just about 30 seconds here, and then we'll wrap it up. 30 seconds, and we're going to write down, we're going to draw a landscape. So whatever that landscape should look like, volcano, beach, whatever, wherever you are, whatever that needs to look like. Okay. Show you.
Okay.
That's my little beach.
Nice.
Like beautiful line drawing. This will be in a museum someday. So just okay. And then did we talk challenge yet?
No.
Did I get to that here? No?
Yep.
Okay. So then we want to come up with a challenge. So what's a challenge that they're facing? So we have a beach. We have Albert and Winnie for mine. And their challenge I gave them was social distancing. So what's your challenge? And so now, you're done. You threw the pen away. Done. Okay, Pete's done too. So now we want to go through and we want to tell a short story. So, and it can be super short. So basically we're saying, for mine, I would say Albert and Winnie decided to go to the beach because they wanted to social distance. And they didn't have any other options except for going to a beach where there's plenty of space. That's my story. What about you, Matthew? What's your story?
I have Timmy and Barb at Topsail Beach. Their challenge is that they have no bodies. And so they went to the beach where they would look like kites in the sky and no one could tell that they were disembodied.
Okay. Good one. What about you, Pete?
All right, so we have Leslie and Ben, and
Okay.
they're at a volcano, and they lost their keys in the volcano.
Oh, that's
So
great.
they're gonna have a tough time getting them out so they can get back in their Prius to get home.
Okay, nice. What about you, Lauren?
I think Pete, Aggregate Theater will be using your story for their next podcast audio
All
drama.
right,
I
all right.
love
Yeah, you can say copyrighted, right?
that.
Lauren, did you write down with us or no?
I did. I
You did?
have
Okay, go ahead.
I did. Well, I did, but my drawing is terrible. So I've got Bud and Jess. They are going to, or they're in New York City, and their challenge is going to a play.
Okay, that could be a challenge. They couldn't find the
It's going to be
TKTS
a
booth,
challenge.
right?
Yes.
They only had standing room only left, right? So
Yes.
So that's a really simple exercise you can do, and I think one way that it can be incorporated right now, especially when we're talking about reentry, is to ask the next question. So you've asked the kids to get location, names, one or two names, challenge, and then draw that landscape. So now the question can be, how do they interact with your other peers, characters? So we could say, Lauren, how does your character interact with Matthew's characters? Do you want to give it a shot?
Oh. Well, my characters want to fly those kites.
Okay,
That's
that's good. And how would they fly the kites together with them?
oh my goodness. I don't know.
Maybe
Uh,
they were on the plane on the beach and they just picked it up and
yeah,
they flew them, right?
yeah.
So that's a way of
They
interacting,
just
right?
blew them up as balloons. I don't know, but yes.
Great one. But I mean, the ideas and what we're coming up with, these are all funny things. But the ideas that we're talking about socializing again, and we're talking about things that will help them with reentry. So I hope that helped, and I hope it's
I
a
love
good tool
this.
that others can take and use pretty simply.
I love this, and it's pretty simple. I love I also think, Matthew, what you said earlier, Pete, I know you and I've had conversations about this, about theater teaching empathy. Are you finding that in the camps that you're doing now, that kids are being able to flex that empathy muscle a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, especially with our show we're working on, the fact that um, all of them were willing to um, start out the camp before they really even met anyone and share their stories. Because kind of what I did is I asked them a bunch of questions, and they all sent in. They all basically interviewed themselves and sent me the recording, said to make the script. So before they even met anyone else in camp, that they put themselves out there to be shown in a play on stage. And I think that them coming together and knowing some of the challenges, the personal challenges that they've been through, and that ice had been broken before they even came to the theater, that um, that they really have rallied around each other to be like, and they're understanding where the other ones are coming from, and the challenges that they have as they're going through this process. So we definitely have a very, very empathetic bunch, that are that are willing to support each other through the challenges that they've been going through.
Matthew?
Yeah, I agree. It is it's a really special environment to be with a bunch of people who have all been through a very similar, maybe biggest event of their life, and so there is an understanding that I think the group has collectively of each other, and what we're trying to do is provide some sort of structure for that empathy to be expressed. I think sometimes they're not certain how to share how much they understand of each other. And so we try to create an environment in which that's possible and safe. The thing that we're also trying to teach, I think that's a skill to relearn or to continue learning, is that observation of other people, of the situation, before just going in with expressing how you feel about it. So, and I can't, gosh, that has to be hard on a virtual platform to observe a group dynamic when no one's together, really, you know? And so it is a thing where we're asking, like, step back a moment. What do you see? What do you think their perspective is right now? And they're so good. Once they do that, once they take that moment, they're on it. Like they get it. So I don't feel so much that we're teaching empathy as like, how do we create the opportunity for empathy and the opportunity for expressing that empathy in a helpful, positive way.
Absolutely. And Will, when we're creating opportunities for, I feel like, oh my gosh, play is opportunities for learning, opportunities for communication. At least that's how I look at it with my children, and opportunities to teach empathy. Talk to me about how we can start doing those things at home, because I think so many of us have been relying on our devices to occupy our children while we've been in quarantine. A lot of us have been working from home and, turn to the screens so that the kids can be occupied so we can get stuff done. How can we start giving space, using play, getting kids off their devices to teach some of these things?
So one thing I think Matthew was saying about opportunity, or we create the opportunity for empathy, and I think that's really important. That it's not just like, boom, here's the empathy, but it's creating that space and creating that opportunity for it to happen. So I think the biggest thing is really get back to the physical items that you have at home, whether it's a physical toy, whether it's a physical activity. And I want to say this real quick. My toy company's kind of mission is that we create healthy kids who become confident adults. That's our mission, and it's an indirect mission. We don't necessarily. I mean, we are giving a physical or a message, but they're actually just playing. That's what they're doing at the end of the day. And so I think we want to simplify everything and just say, go back to the basics. Play cards. Do crosswords, or if they're a little bit younger, do tic-tac-toe if you're going to do it. And also, hey, there's this exercise too that you can do at home and maybe expand off of it. There's so many things you can do where you can even do like origami, or you can just do things that are going to give you more time with your kids and with your significant other or other people in your life, and really take the time to sit down and do it. Again, going back to our survey around the holidays this last year, the biggest thing kids wanted out of anything was that they wanted time. They wanted time with their parents. They wanted time with their friends to sit down and do something tangible and real together, not just be on their screen.
I love that, and I think that's a great spot to for leave it. Matthew, you are working on a really exciting project. You started over the summer. You know, I'm big into the audio drama, but maybe one thing that kids and parents can do together, I'm just going to do a big mishmash here, is they can listen to Gazelephant when it comes out and use some of Will's magnetic clay to create the characters. So, I'm going to just kind of do a big mishmash here, but tell us about Gazelephant and how people can find out about your next project.
Sure, yeah. So Gazelephant it's a musical that I wrote several years ago, and then through the United Arts of Raleigh and Wake County, I got a grant to turn it into an audio production. So we got the original cast back together, and I was through getting to revisit, I got to add more songs and things to it. So it's about an hour long, a lot of fun, and it's a story all about how to live your dreams. It's about a fourth grader who wants to become a rock star. But how can you chase your dreams without and still be kind to others along the way, essentially. It's really more about self-discovery and friendships more than anything. And the best way to follow it would be at Gazelephant on Instagram, or going to aggregatetheater.com. And there's links and resources there as well. Thank you, Lauren, for that. Lauren, I'm having trouble hearing you right now. I don't know if that's me or anybody else. There we go.
So, sorry about that. You put out some audio dramas earlier in the summer. So those are still available online?
They are, yeah. In fact, those are on Aggregate Theater. Yeah, Stuck Stories was something we came out with during early COVID quarantine time to have characters and stories of kids who are also stuck in the house because of an avalanche instead of pandemic, but still trying to find things to do until their rescue.
I love it. And so while you're listening to these amazing audio podcasts, I'm going to put up the Tatro Toys banner, and you can. I'm big into clay. I love modeling clay. I love any kind of clay, and Will has some great magnetic clay. So. Great props, great objects to facilitate some of that play with. Will, do you want to tell us what's coming up? What's new at Tatro Toys?
So I think the biggest thing with Tatro Toys is that it's all about stories. It's all about just sitting down with a tangible product that you can feel and touch and see right in front of you, for both the parents and the kids. So through those stories, we have different themes that we sell. We have little travel play sets. They're about, actually, I have one here. I'll show you. We have little travel sets that look like these. They come with a little tote bag, and you add your magnets to it. You play. This one's our New Orleans theme, which is big in New Orleans, where I am. But we have other things like mermaid, unicorn, cars and trucks, dinosaurs, and then we also are branching out into some musical stuff because I have my background in theater, and I just want to do that for fun. So we have some inspired by Wicked. We have one inspired by The Greatest Showman, and those are some of the newer ones that we have. Oh, and Newsies as well. But the whole point is to have something physical to tell stories and just learn.
And the great thing about this is I think there's so many kids, I've watched tons of movies with my children. My daughter loves The Greatest Showman. So these are great ways to, again, get the kids to play and get them to open up and have conversation.
And get them talking, really.
Yeah, just talking. That's what it is. Pete Perspectives opens on Friday. I will be there. Grace Niesel, who is a rock star at Beltline to Broadway. She's our junior critic. Her reviews get read far more than mine do, far more than any of ours do. She's in Perspectives. She's working on that production. So how can people come and see it? Do people just go to interact.org?
Yep. So it's nract.org, and we have tickets. We have shows on Friday and Saturday at 7:00, and then Sunday at 3. So it's just the 3 shows. And so, like I said, it's original dialogue already and music you're already familiar with. So we are doing musical theater songs. We have another opening from another show. We have stuff from American Idiot. We have stuff from Pippin, Godspell. So all kinds of cool stuff. Musical theater songs you already know, woven in with with their stories from. We have 11 actors in the show, so all the dialogue came from their mouths of what their life and relationship to theater has been pre-COVID, and then through COVID, and then hopefully as we're on the upswing from COVID, and what they kind of see as their future. So it really reads at the end of the day like a like a love letter back to theater, as this show is quite literally the first public performance back on NRAC stage since March 2020. And so it's kind of telling the story of 11 young performers and what they have missed and gained by not being able to perform. And now that this theater is back and open to the public again. So
And Justice Theater Project has been up to a lot of stuff virtually online. Matthew mentioned the YouTube productions, so I'll put Justice Theater Project back up as well. You can go to their website, check out their social media, and see what the kids have been up to on their YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here. This is amazing. I do want to say if your children are struggling and need professional help, or you just want to have a professional to talk to, I during the closing credits will be running some phone numbers and websites that you can either text or call or visit, so you can get support that way. But thank you all for being here. This has been amazing. And for those of you who have been watching since 6:30 with the previous broadcast, thanks for hanging in there with us. And I hope to see you all at the theater really soon. So Matthew, last time I saw you at the theater, you were wearing heels and a wig. So I can't wait to get back to
Some
it.
things never change, Lauren. Some things never change.
I just can't wait to see what you have next coming up. And Pete, I know. Good luck at your new school. You're changing. Sanderson's probably in mourning right now, but
I don't know about that, but yeah, it's definitely a big change, and we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to start my new career at Green Hope High School. So yeah.
excellent. And Will, you have all sorts of amazing things happening, but I just cannot wait to see what happens next with Tatro Toys. And maybe I'll get to meet you at Broadway Flea. Are you going to be
Maybe
at our
so.
powwow?
I'm thinking about it. I hope I can be there. So
All
we'll see.
right. Well, New Orleans is also on my bucket list of theater of cities to visit. So if I don't see you in New York, I'll have to see you in New Orleans.
Sounds great.
And we need a Raleigh magnet play set. I'm going to start advocating for that.
We eventually, the plan is to come out with as many cities. I mean, I won't say as many cities as we can, but many cities as we move into those cities, those areas.
Yes.
So very
well. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for watching. And I am going to run the closing credits with those phone numbers. If you joined us late, you can follow this on our website, on our Facebook or YouTube page, and see it from the beginning. And you just all stay safe and healthy. Pete, I will see you this weekend.
All right. All right. Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all.